Hello there, everybody. This is Alex from Hardcore Guides, being my guide for Uncharted Drake's Fortune on crushing difficulty. Today we're doing Chapter 4, entitled Plane Wrecked. Yeah, not shipwrecked, but we are plane wrecked. And by plane wrecked, I mean we are plane. Absolutely wrecked. No doubt about it. This chapter is going to be the longer one of the few we have so far. It's the longest of the chapters we've done so far. And honestly, it's caused me a lot of pain. A lot of pain. I remember back when I first did Uncharted on crushing, like just as my own playthrough, and back in the day, back on the PS3, right? Well, this one still gives me trouble even today, and to say it's one of the hardest chapters, I can definitely still say for sure that it still holds up, only because of the fact that we are so. I don't know exactly how to put it. I was going to say, we're kind of weak, because we don't have access to all this crazy stuff. That's not really the case. Anyway, our first little fight, I like to hide behind the rock, but not using the cover, and I like to shoot the guys when they come down to just get some extra shots in. And this one guy right here, he just stays up there. He never really jumps down or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about him too much. Now, notice one thing for sure. You can definitely tell, without a doubt, I am playing the Nathan Drake collection, considering the fact that there is no 6-axis wobbling. And, of course, since there's no 6-axis, which is something my friend mentioned that I forgot about, but grenades also do not have 6-axis control. They do... They do control like they do normally in any other Uncharted. Which, right now, we get access to grenades at the start. I'm not going to want to try to redo commentary. This is 20 minutes long. I'm not going to try to bother with it. So this might be a little bit more unprofessional, but it's Uncharted, so I think it's fine. Now, once again, instead of using the circle cover system here, I'm, of course, using the cover, but while also aiming, so I can make sure that I have basically better cover. That's something that you'll be noticing me do more often than not throughout the entire playthrough, because Uncharted lets me do it, and I'm going to do it. Now, I tried a few different sequences here, and I felt like the best sequence to take these guys out in is pretty much this first wave. There's a checkpoint halfway through, by the way. This first wave, I recommend just jumping down here, using this rock as cover, and kind of letting, or just taking out the first couple of guys. These guys, there's a few in the back that I don't think spawn until you move up to a certain point. So make sure that you always have like this sort of high vertical cover that you can stand behind. If you start getting shot and you get worried a little bit, just run back here. Try not to run up there, because the cover that you find up there in these little ruins is just so small and just not worth it. But we now finally have access to an AK, and no, we've had an AK before. What am I talking about? Yeah, sorry, it's been a bit, but I'm pretty sure we did. Either way, you clean out those guys, and now these guys up above will spawn, and if I'm not mistaken, somewhere along these lines is going to be a checkpoint that's going to click in, and you'll notice when I do an edit that I basically hit that checkpoint, so no worries about that. And if you do blow up a barrel, it will respawn in the checkpoint, so there should be no fear from that. But that's going to come into play when I get around to it. But one thing I can guarantee is try not to run into this middle section here, because this entire area is just completely dangerous. And just notice how I'm already in the grave from just like a couple of shots, a couple of pistol shots. It's ridiculous. It's insane. And hold on to your grenades just in case too. There's never really like a super viable moment when you need grenades, but there are a few that I would probably most likely end up having to use later on in the future. But right there, those guys I was fighting at the top, they wore, I'm guessing, the checkpoint. But basically, you can tell if you got checkpointed because, well, you'd appear here. But two, that rock formation thing, when they jump down, if you pay attention to that, that's basically signifying that, now is your chance to get your checkpoint. So I keep talking about the word checkpoint. It's getting kind of annoying, I'm sure. But either way, really, really annoying hard fight. Not the worst one in the chapter so far, but definitely one of the more, well, actually probably, definitely one of the more hard ones, no doubt. Now, I do want to make mention real quick that, in my opinion, the shotgun will not be used, and I don't find it very useful, in my opinion, for a crushing/brutal difficulty mode, only because of the fact that it has such limited range, and I can't use it if I'm trying to fight at range. So I was getting shot at here, but I couldn't quite pinpoint where he was. At least I don't think I found him. And I believe eventually I just kind of gave up. So you'll see you'll see your typical edit where I pretty much have, I've died a bunch of times. Alright, so this next part here, this one's really obnoxious as well. Hang onto the wall, aim up. Now, keep in mind that because this is Uncharted, reloading while you're hanging in the air does seem to take a little bit more time to reload. At least it feels like it does. So, bear that in mind. I throw a couple grenades just to make sure that one goes after the other. It was just really bad timing on that one, to be honest. But I like to throw a grenade to make sure I get these 3 guys killed off, and then just hunker down here so I can avoid him. However, if you're looking for better cover, this one I'm using right now is what I highly recommend. I recommend running up here, throwing a grenade, and timing your grenade shots, or at least being a really good shot and taking out those 3 guys first, and then hiding behind that small little pillar, and then using that for cover instead. And then just slowly make your way up here, because we're once again entering somewhat dangerous territory. Luckily, not too bad, but just enough to be relatively annoying, and pretty much just the point of the entire chapter just being annoying. I've never beaten brutal mode yet, but I can only assume how much worse it's gonna get when I get there. But anyway, once I start getting shot down, I decide to run back to kind of get my bearings, not just to heal, but just to more so try to lure them into a more better suited place for cover. That's something that I typically tend to do quite often in a game like this. And I know it goes without saying, because it's been said before a dozen times, but headshots are practically not necessary, but they do help out a ton. Especially considering the fact that the only way to really get ammo back is either an enemy will drop a gun, which they typically always have a gun, or at the very least, you do a brutal combo, which, to be fair, if there's only one guy left, at that point you can take that chance if you wish. However, I'm on crushing, I don't really feel like it's necessary. Especially if I'm going to be doing brutal mode, because I think if you play brutal mode, I think one hit's enough to kill you. Or at least close to. As in, if you do mess up a brutal combo, I think there's probably a chance that you can die from that. But, I don't know. Foreshadowing for me to do brutal mode? Probably. I've thought about it, guys. I've thought about it this generation. It would be considered impossible, quote-unquote. It was something that I would consider impossible back then. Well, I wouldn't consider it I've never considered anything impossible except for maybe like XCOM 2, Legendary, Iron Man mode or something. That to me sounds incredibly stupidly difficult. Alright, so this next part, you can get a nice drop on this guy. Weirdly enough, I got a headshot but didn't kill him. So I guess the back of his head's made out of pure metal or something, I don't know. Either way, I take out these guys without going too far into this little fortress here and let them kind of spawn in and just have my eyes on the door so that way they don't try to, flank me or anything like that. Come up here and then you'll have to aim in because there's going to be a couple of enemies coming from this side. And luckily a grenade was just enough to kind of take them out, so that's one thing I cannot give you guys advice on perfectly is I can't tell you where to shoot most of the time. I can't tell you how to shoot properly. I can't really tell you how to grenade properly either. It's just a thing that, like, when you play this game enough, you start to kind of learn where enemy patterns and enemy spawns are going to be at, and then from there, you can kind of just dissect, oh, I'll throw a grenade here, I'll do this here. That's just Uncharted in a nutshell. But to be fair to Uncharted 1, I still argue, I haven't really done Uncharted 4's crushing yet, or Lost Legacy, but I would still argue that at the very least, I feel like Uncharted 1 is still one of the hardest games in the Uncharted series. Only because of the simple fact that... Only because of the simple fact that it's so archaic in comparison. It's really kind of slightly clunky. It's not a bad game, just, it's kind of a little weird sometimes. But yeah, notice how I get up here first. I take cover, hopefully, as soon as I possibly can. And then I just kind of just wait pick one guy off, hide back in cover, pick another guy off, that kind of thing. So it goes back again to the topic I mentioned earlier in an earlier chapter, where you can kind of pay attention to the enemy shots. They'll usually do like 3 to 4 shots, and then when they're done, they'll do like a slight reload thing or something, or they'll stop trying to shoot for just a split second, giving you enough time to retaliate. Here's a little annoying platforming section. Don't jump. Just walk off the cliff, and if you happen to walk off, there's a higher chance for Nathan to basically grab onto that ledge because... Oh, I said there's a higher chance, but for me, it tends to work if I walk off. I'll just say that. I don't know about the higher chance thing. That's just me, fumbling my words. But either way, I like to walk off it to make sure that I don't accidentally overshoot my jump or anything like that. This part is super hard. So, run up here. These guys will spawn, but run back behind this wall. And you got to be quick on this one. You got to be quick on the draw on this one, because I got super lucky with that, though. I could have easily died. Now, you could always run back and then jump onto that rock and hang on to it like a ledge. You could do that, but they spawn in so quick that it just seems so difficult to even try to get some shots off on. But either way, if you are quick with headshots, you can knock those 2 guys out almost instantly. And if you do, great. But just remember, try to run back to that rock, because trying to get to the next rock, while you're trying to make progress, just seems ridiculously hard and not worth the trouble. You could, of course, probably most likely roll and try to get away from damage, but this is not a Souls game, so we can't really roll and get all those crazy iframes going to avoid, the oncoming enemy fire. It's really annoying. And then now we have our next sequence that we need to get to, which will luckily be our checkpoint as well. But here comes a not so hard part. There's plenty of stuff to hide behind, thankfully. A lot of good stuff to hide behind. Especially what I like to call like the main pillar, which is right there on the left. That's like the main big giant thing I like to use to hide whenever I get a chance. So from here, it's basically just try to move up to cover. Keep your eye on both of your sides here. Try not to let them flank. That sort of thing. Go for headshots. The same usual tidbits of advice. And, as soon as you go gray, obviously, just don't try to pop out. Don't try to go crazy with anything. If they start getting close, go for blind fire, because it's much better that way, and you don't have to pop out and get yourself hurt. And then from here, it's just basically just try and take out the last guy. Also, rolling into grabbing ammo is a good idea. It's always been a good idea for Uncharted, of course. That's always one thing. If you're not familiar with Uncharted, you can roll and grab ammo at the same time, and it saves you from having to do the pickup ammo animation like I did there, and, like there as well. It was something that I forgot Uncharted 1 even had, to be honest with you. Also, one indicator of whether or not you're actually completely done with a fight or not is whether or not Drake will run or walk. If he runs, or light jog, I guess you could say. If he happens to run, you're still in combat. So that at least gives you a nifty little idea of, oh man, I still have to fight, so this sucks. But either way, the fight's over with. Now all I have to do is climb up this plane. And I, for some reason, was thinking that the vine would be it. I don't know why I thought that for it, but yeah, just grab onto the rope. Eventually, Drake will get it. He was being kind of stubborn with me here, but eventually he'll get it, and you just walk in here, you do your thing, and that's pretty much just about it. Then you just climb back down, and now you have another firefight, but this time on the other side. This side is a lot more difficult to deal with than the other side, in my opinion. However, we do have this giant big rock formation thing right here as well that we can, of course, use as cover and get some really good pop shots on. So let these guys come down. You can always preemptively throw a grenade over there if you know their spawn, and like if you know it well enough. But then again, if you know it well enough, you probably don't need to be watching this video for advice. Well, to be fair, it's Uncharted, man. Like, I don't think anybody's really watching this for like tips and tricks that much. If somebody was, that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's Uncharted. I think this game's been done to death. I'm not doing anything new. I'm basically just making up for lost time that I should have I should have done this game a long time ago, but I didn't. Like a fool. But that's okay, because on Hardcorean, we like to be entertaining at the same time. And, people want to see me play Uncharted, well, I can do that. I think that's fair to say, at the very least. But yeah, there's your rolling thing, of course, like I mentioned earlier. It's just a faster way of doing it. It's something that you kind of pick up on when you're playing games like this on hard for decades. You're just like, yeah, I have to do that. Pretty much once again, it's just now you have to fight on the opposite side once again, or I should say the original side, which of course basically makes me, it forces me to pretty much use this cover once again. And then now we have another shotgunner coming in, and shotgunners are nasty, so make sure you take them out, usually first, because they like to charge toward you. Other enemies, not really so much. Also, yeah, I know, I messed up the grenade throw. My body is exploding on me right now. Sorry about that. It's just dying over here. This is why 20-minute videos are just usually not the best thing to try to get for, but it's going to have to happen. Uncharted's going to have those moments where there's going to be like a 20-minute chapter or something going on. So I can't really fight that back. Well, at the very least, it's not an hour long, because, man, hour-long guides are also incredibly painful. Now, I'll say this, the shotgun's not bad, but the reason why I don't use it is because if I use a shotgun up close, there's a high chance that most likely that guy will probably shoot me back and kill me before I get a chance to, or at least his buddy will probably most likely get a chance to kill me before I even have a chance to fight back. So it's just annoying. That guy, you can take a shot from him or whatever, it's fine because he's scripted to die. I just kind of panicked there and totally forgot and got a little bit worried that, oh yeah, he actually will die from that. I don't have to worry too much. And now we get the other famous part of doing Uncharted content, the climbing sections. The sections I'm sure you guys will probably all skip, and I do not blame you. So I'll see you when we get back to the action. I could edit them out, but honestly, someone probably wants to see it too, so I think it's only fair. Alright, coming up now, we have a stealth part, and I'm going to show you, this I can give you some tips and advice on. Alright, what I do is I like to stealth the first two guys. There's a grenade launcher guy right here on, basically right there. Shoot him in the head. Go for a headshot instantly and kill him. You do not want the grenade guy to exist. He is a thorn in your ass. No doubt about it. And then once he drops that grenade, just, slowly make your way up, or at the very least, stay behind cover and try to, get these guys to pop out and make themselves known that they're there and kill them. Then when all is clear and Drake is able to walk around, you will get a checkpoint there, thank goodness. Go grab the N79. It has 3 shots, so make these things kind of count. And try to wait for the best time to use it is try to wait for these guys to group up as best as you can. See, as I got a triple there, that's pretty much what you're going for. And of course, using blind fire also helps too. Especially when they get closer, because it's a lot easier to kind of aim in the grenade launcher with blind fire. Now, do bear in mind that there is a couple of waves of enemies, and that first wave is not the only one to deal with. So if you want to save a grenade launcher shot for these guys, you always can. But I do recommend at least taking out the first group, as many as you possibly can, so that way you can just, get your benefit from that. And there you go. That's pretty much just the chapter. Just watch out for these little spike traps, because these things will basically kill you instantly if you do not dodge roll them. The game will give you a prompt. It will say circle, and then when it does that, that's basically just saying, hey, dodge this, you doofus. And if you're like me, an actual doofus, you'll get hit by it and wonder why you got hit by it and be like, what the hell, I pressed circle. No, you didn't. You took too long. But either way, that's Chapter 4. I'll see you guys for another climbing section in Chapter 5 when we finally get to the fortress. So, of course, as always, take care, everybody.